man, in the early 90s we got some of the best anime they probably ever made. Ghost in the Shell, Bubblegum Crisis, Cyber City, Weirdo 808, all that old sci-fi anime stuff that just goes super hard. And so I was very fortunate growing up when I did, that a lot of the games coming out during my youth took inspiration from that very same Japanimation. In my opinion, the one that best captures this exact sort of vibe is Burning Rangers for the Sega Saturn. I have briefly talked about this game before on the channel, but mainly I was just focusing on Andreas Scholl's excellent remake of the first stage, whereas today I want to go a little bit deeper into the world of Burning Rangers. The quiet majesty of these vast industrial complexes, the atmospheric emptiness, the dramatic stillness.
This is Tillis!
But in fact what we actually got here is a super upbeat game that makes you feel all happy and optimistic like. Burning Rangers focuses keenly on heroism and the impact that you have on the lives you save. Most importantly, it's fun as hell. I mean, it's Sonic Team in the late 90s when they were on a bit of a tear. This came out in the same year as Sonic Adventure and just a few years prior to Phantasy Star Online, but it feels like an exact halfway point between those two. You zoom around very fast, jump very high, collect many objects a la Blue Hedgehog, but you're also a cool futuristic firefighter with a snazzy little blaster going around exploring labs, factories, space stations, etc., which is very much in keeping with the stuff that I love about PSO. It's a definite dopamine hit of a game. You got that banging soundtrack going off here, and then the story and the gameplay really reinforces a feeling of camaraderie with your team. They're all good and noble folk who go on these missions for the simple joy of helping people. But before we can join them, we need to complete our training. So we choose to be either Sho or Tillis, and then we jump into this sleek danger room type setting where the Rangers do their drills. Honestly, a tutorial's probably not necessary in this game because it's all pretty basic stuff. That's something I always enjoyed about 90s Sonic Team. They generally kept the mechanics of a thing very simple and just focused on making it as enjoyable as possible. No superfluous controls or gimmicks here, but it is worth going through the tutorial just for the sake of meeting the team and familiarising yourself with everybody, especially Big Landman.
A ranger can never be too careful. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, don't worry. You'll understand what I'm saying later.
Once this is done, the alert comes in that we got a job to do. A bunch of shit's exploded in a huge factory and we gotta get in there, put out the fires and save the people. That is this game in a nutshell as far as the play goes. It's very arcadey. You want to save as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And to do that, you need to collect crystals to power your tractor beam thingy. Meanwhile, the fire's going to be raging around whatever location you're in, so you gotta use colour-coded blasts to get rid of it, backflip to avoid it, and just generally try and get the job done nice and efficient like. There's only 5 stages total, so you're probably going to have this thing boxed off in just over an hour once you got used to the controls and playstyle, but it does have a lot of replay value and much of that comes from the flavour. I mentioned how this has a heavy dose of peak 90s anime, and that is prevalent all the way through. The jazzy soundtrack here isn't a million miles away from some of the cuts you'd hear on Trigun or Cowboy Bebop. The design and voice of the characters are shonen as hell. Even the cutscenes are all rendered in era-appropriate anime style. There is a plot of sorts, and it's deeper and more convoluted than it needs to be, but that was the style at the time. The game blasts off in all sorts of twisty and turny directions with astral projection and evil space gods. But I'm content enough just going on various disconnected missions with my happy little firefighters, which is generally how things be in the early stages. In the factory stage, the source of all the chaos is a big Plant 42 type creature that turns out to be an experiment that got out of hand. This is a good time to mention that when you rescue survivors, they'll generally email you after the mission. Sometimes it's just folks thanking you, sometimes it's little kids that you've inspired to become future Burning Rangers, and in this case, the doctor who created the evil plant decides to mend his wicked ways and start working on some shit that might actually help people. The Sonic Team pull no punches with the level design, and by the second mission things are already getting pretty wild. We've got a sea life themed amusement park here that houses a secret R&D facility in the lower quarters replete with big mechs. The mechs are hostile of course, but thankfully they are also weak to water, which is great for us seeing as how we are armed with high-tech water pistols. The characters do start to point out that the structure of the level doesn't make a lick of sense, but that doesn't matter because Tillis is too busy entering the water channel.
I'm entering the water channel!
Okay.
whilst we're here, we do some beep boop console stuff, fight those chunky mech robots, and even ride on a goddamn dolphin because this game is insanely based. Aesthetically, Burning Rangers is very much my jam with all the cyberchrome structures and neon panels and such. Huge shout out to this room in the Ocean Lab for looking sleek as hell. But we're not on Earth for very long because these Rangers ain't got no jurisdiction, they can fight fires wherever the hell they want. And it's a good job because this space station here recently set ablaze, so we gotta get the astronauts out of there. This one's probably my favourite mission. There's only a small number of survivors to worry about, including Yuji Naka himself, and it's more about getting keycards from people to access different areas of the ship. There's a few cool sections here where you float around in zero gravity, messing around, fighting fires and saving people, and then it ends with a really hard part where you gotta get this kid across a burning abyss, and it's just an instant fail if you don't do it. Now this is one of those games that I wish had been on the Dreamcast instead of the Saturn, just for technical reasons. The Saturn was a fabulous console, but it was intended to be a 2D powerhouse, and so it was never truly meant for 3D. Even so, Burning Rangers pulls out some crazy particle effects and dynamic fire and all kinds of stuff that was technically way beyond what the console should have been capable of. And so it still stands out as a testament to the sheer talent of the devs at Sonic Team, and it's definitely one of the best looking Saturn games. Not only that, but I can pick this game up now, 25 years on from its release, and it still plays smooth as butter. The controls are tight as hell, the jumps are big and zoomy, the jetpack feels great, and that's still an achievement in itself since a lot of games from around this era have pretty clunky control schemes that haven't aged half as well. So if you have even the slightest interest in cool 3D action games from this era, you owe it to yourself to check this one out. And just between us, I would consider emulating because the current asking price for this online is just a little bit steep. And seeing as how Sega are on this big reboot kick now, bringing back all of our favourites of yesteryear, it's high time that they take a look at some of the bangers they left over on the Saturn, because I firmly believe a remake or a HD remaster of Burning Rangers would sell like hotcakes with a modern audience. As always folks, thank you for watching. Please burn those buttons for me if you had a good time, and if you're feeling especially generous, you could always take a look at that there Patreon. Until next time folks.
This is Tillis. I don't know why, but I know I was here before in the flow of time. I came